Yes. Cordia.
I'm very concerned about, I have 4 minutes, about recent reports to cuts to community schemes such as the CE scheme, TUS and the Rural Social Scheme. For instance, the deadline for the Rural Social Scheme in County Cavan closed today, and my office has been inundated with requests for application forms, so they are being well utilised, Minister. You only have to look around the communities in the country to see the valuable work that would not be completed if these schemes cease to exist. The Government's argument is that unemployment figures are in decline. Minister, not everywhere in the country has seen the benefits of an economic recovery, and I refer to my own constituency of Cavan and Monaghan. In truth, these schemes are filling the holes that are state structures which have been left by government cutbacks. I'm speaking about the cuts to Cavan County Council and Monaghan County Council have endured when it came to staffing and resourcing. You only have to look at the poor road conditions of our network and the impact of the lack of a local improvement scheme is having on rural communities. But of course this discussion is for another day and with the Minister for Transport. However, back to the community employment schemes, TUS and the rural social schemes. I know in my own constituency of Cavan Monaghan, my office has received hundreds of calls since Christmas to report incidents of illegal dumping, and I know locally in my town of Bailieborough that people have been inundated and been so willing to help too at various stages through these community schemes, and great work has been done to clean up the countryside across the constituency. In rural villages across Cavan and Monaghan, people are living alone and hugely benefit from the Rural Social Scheme. In 2016, approximately 37,000 people were involved in working in TUS, CE schemes and the Rural Social Scheme. 37,000 people doing valuable work in our communities. How can we in rural Ireland sustain any cuts to these important schemes? I'm calling on you, I'm calling on the Minister for Social Protection to give assurances that the future of community schemes such as these will be protected and, if anything, enhanced. In particular, I would like to see the current time limits for certain schemes being abolished. Community schemes like the CE scheme, TUS and the Rural Social Scheme are invaluable programmes which see local people provided important services in towns, villages and rural areas right across the country. Community ventures such as the maintenance of football pitches, green areas and community halls are all carried out by people on schemes such as these. In many cases, if it weren't for these programmes, the work would not be done at all, and in many councils do not have the resources or the manpower to do them. And that's where they are filling this gap and this void. In my offices in both Cavan and Monaghan, we've been contacted by a number of people concerned about the future of the TUS scheme in particular. We need assurances from the Minister that this scheme, along with the other CE and RSS, will be continued into the future and that the repressive time limits for certain schemes will be lifted. The benefit of these schemes is twofold. It gives participants a sense of purpose and really engages them back into the workplace, and it ensures that essential work is carried out in communities. Many of the people who participate in these schemes can find it difficult to get into the workplace. And the idea of forcing them back into the job seekers allowance is counterproductive. It can have a negative impact on people themselves and deprives communities of experienced workers who are making a valuable contribution to their communities. I'm calling on the Minister to examine current time restrictions attached to some of these schemes so that people can continue participating in these essential programmes. The value is not only for the individual but for the local community.
First of all, I want to thank Deputy Niamh Smyth for raising this very important issue, and I also want to, I'm saying that I'm taking this debate because Minister Leo Varadkar is detained in the Shannon. Can I say, first of all, community employment, CE and TUS are part of the Department's range of programmes and schemes catering for long-term unemployed job seekers and those most distant from the labour market. They are designed to break the cycle of unemployment and maintain work readiness, thereby improving a person's opportunities of returning to the labour market. Employment programmes are a vital service in local communities, especially throughout rural Ireland. The programmes deliver on two levels. On the one hand, they provide a person who is unemployed, Cancorla, with the opportunity of work experience and to develop new skills to prepare them for employment in the open labour market. Secondly, they play, and I acknowledge this, a very important role in augmenting service delivery to local communities in key areas such as childcare, health, social care, drug rehabilitation and local amenities. All areas of the country have benefited from these programmes. In fact, I have seen it myself recently at first hand over the past number of months when I visited various schemes throughout the whole country. As the economic recovery takes hold and the overall level of unemployment continues to fall, the need to adopt employment programmes to the changing circumstances, opportunities and the needs of job seekers has become more apparent and more urgent. With this in mind, the Department undertook an analysis of the CE programme, and while the primary focus was on CE, the review also looked at other employment programmes such as TUS. The report made a number of recommendations in relation to the operation of these schemes. As the Deputy may be aware, the Minister recently brought a memorandum to Government on the programmes, and he has obtained approval to publish the review report and to progress the various recommendations. He intends publishing the review report within the next 2 weeks, so we will see some movement in that over the next 2 weeks. As part of the rollout of the new measures, his department will be consulting with key stakeholders in the coming weeks, and implementation of the new measures will be progressed thereafter. The nature and format of the consultation process are being finalised at present by his department officials. I want to assure the Deputy that the work being done through the programmes like the CE and TUS is highly valued and recognised by this Government. I believe that the changes to be rolled out over the coming months will strengthen the schemes and help to ensure that they continue to support the unemployed people and the provision of services across communities in Ireland.
And I hope that that commitment is there to strengthen and enhance those schemes, and that we will see no reduction in that, because I'm very honest when I say that rural constituencies such as Cavan and Monaghan have not seen the economic recovery that we hear so much talk about in this chamber. It really has been the more urban areas that have been affected by that, and we so totally depend on schemes like that, and our councils, as I said, don't have the manpower that they used to have on the roads, in our libraries, in our community spaces, for our community playgrounds, and they're so utterly important in relation to that. However, can I say that there are concerns being raised to the access for participants from the CE schemes to job paths, because it appears job path seems to take precedence. And myself and a lot of my colleagues within the Fianna Fáil party have had huge issue where people who have a genuine interest, skills to impart, skills to use within their community, and a place perhaps available on a CE scheme, but once they're signed up to the job path scheme, there doesn't seem to be any room for manoeuvre or to be able to negotiate from one scheme to the other, and that is a huge problem, Minister, that really needs to be dealt with. CE schemes have grown to develop great social and economic benefits to our communities, and we must be mindful of the impact that the job path is having on them. Whilst the goal is, of course, to move the majority of people into full-time, sustainable employment, we need to be cognizant that one-size-fits-all approach is not suitable for everybody, and therefore needs a degree of flexibility in the activation scheme and an awareness of people's age, skill set, previous experience and their needs and goals. Many of us as TDs have been contacted where people are having a huge difficulty, as I just outlined, in relation to where they have signed up for something for job path and want to move to the CE scheme, and that flexibility isn't there, Minister, and it is a particular issue, very specific, that needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Deputy Minister, to conclude.
Thank you. And can I just say that first of all, you did acknowledge that unemployment is down to 6%. But I mean, your particular issues, you talk about Kevin, and you mentioned the fact that you had a number of calls in recent days on this, and that's something I'll bring back to the Minister. You raised another 2 points as well in relation to the infrastructure in rural areas and transport and roads, and that's something as well that I can talk to Minister Ross about. But I do accept the importance for these community employment schemes for the 37,000 people, because it does give them a sense of purpose. And I totally agree with you in relation to that. Even this morning, both myself and Minister Leo Varadkar and Simon Harris, we were dealing with the issue which is not directly related, but it's in the same territory. And it's the issue of that we have 250,000 people with disabilities, for example, who are receiving a social welfare illness or disability weekly payment. And we are looking at the whole idea of employment for those people. And we have accepted, and we are looking at the whole idea, and we have come across and examined very closely the barriers that are stopping them to get involved in more meaningful employment. And these barriers is the threat of a loss of a medical card at lower levels of earnings, also where the system does not support early intervention. The overall income support for people with disabilities is very, very complex, and people with disabilities are reluctant to leave the security of social protection, of the social protection net. So that actually fits in to what we're doing at the moment. You mentioned about access to the schemes and the need to manoeuvre. And that is a very valuable point. And also, the final point I'll say, Ken Corla, is in relation to when we're looking at these schemes, and we're looking at, I mentioned my own area, disabilities. I do accept your point that one size does not fit all. We have to have flexibility, we have to be able to manoeuvre, and we have to, if we have people that have particular skills in certain areas, whether it's childcare, disabilities or environmental issues, we should be looking seriously at those particular projects. But of all the issues you've raised, I'll bring them back to Minister Varadkar as well.